Assalamu alaikum all. Welcome back to my channel. I pray that you're all in the best of health and iman. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Nafisa. I am a certified relationship and trauma informed coach. Today we are discussing the cautionary tale of a woman who marries beneath her level. You see, let me tell you a story about a woman, and I'll call her Amara. Not her real name, but her story is one that I've heard in some version more times than I can count. So Amara built herself from nothing. Degree, career, her own money. Amara also valued her faith. It shaped how she spent her time, her money, what she plans on doing, how she carries herself. But you see, by 32, Amara was the one in her family called when there was a problem to solve. Then she met a man. Then she met a man who made her feel needed in a different way. Not impressed by her, we can say maybe soothed by her. He wasn't building towards anything in the way she was building towards something, but his practice of faith was, somewhat casual. He prayed. And so for her, that was good enough. Fast the month of Ramadan. He did the basics, right? He had deen. His finances were unstable, whereas hers was structured. But he was warm and he made her laugh. And after years of being the strong one for everyone, that warmth felt like rest. So she agreed and married him, telling herself love doesn't need to make sense on paper. Fast forward 5 years later, in the gap that never seemed to matter had become the only thing that matters. This is the cautionary tale, not about beauty, not about romance, but about level and what happens to a woman when she marries beneath hers. So, ladies, as you listen to this, let's just start clarifying what exactly I mean by levels, because this might trigger some people. Your level relates to your religious practice, it relates to your education and intellectual growth, it relates to your financial standing and discipline, and also your ambition and sense of direction, as well as the man's religious practice, educational, intellectual growth, financial standing, discipline, and ambition and direction. Now let's get into the outcomes of what happens when a woman marries beneath her level. Number one, let's just call a spade a spade. Many women have experienced this in their marriages, in their relationships, the courting phase, getting to know the guy. Jealousy. Jealousy. When a woman marries beneath her level, jealousy becomes a prevalent thing in the relationship. The man may begin to see her wins as competition. The man may begin to see her wins as meaning that he is losing. So every promotion, every milestone becomes something to quietly resent instead of something to celebrate. Men have huge egos. Men have huge egos, and many a times they want to be in a higher position than a woman, if not the same. But when you have an ambitious woman, because many ambitious women, they don't just get to a phase and stop. This is the thing. They don't just get to a level and be like, okay, yeah, I'm done now. No. There's always a level up. They're always leveling up. They're starting this business. They are advancing in this area of their career. There's a particular way they want to raise their children. When it comes to their deen, their iman, how much of the deen that they are practicing, they are always doing much religious wise. They are always giving more to charity. They're always doing more and more. And for a man whose sense of security is not very stable, jealousy can creep in very, very, very quickly. And again, it's not because you rising above is a problem, it's because he perceives himself as lower than you, and that can create a sense of jealousy instead of you being celebrated. High achieving women need to be with men who celebrate them, men who encourage them, men who support them. And dare I actually say this, sometimes men want to do all of these things. Sometimes men marry women who are at a higher level than them, and they think they can handle it until reality hits and they realize, actually, I can't handle this. I can't handle everything that comes with her being a high achiever. I can't compete with her. Her work ethic is crazy. Like this is crazy. And unfortunately, you see a lot of men who are beneath you will then try to do what? Humble you. And this is where the second problem comes in. And this is an attempt to sabotage the woman's progress. This rarely looks dramatic. It can look something like, him being advised, the man being advised, hurry up and get her pregnant. Because when she has children, she's going to slow down. Yeah. Hurry up and put her, get her to be a stay-at-home mom. Because, her being a stay-at-home mom means she's going to be less ambitious, which means you get to remain at the top in your comfortable space above her. And therefore, that's going to be good for your ego. So it's all of the minor ways to try to sabotage the woman's progress. So yet again, he can be feeling like a man and feeling like he's above her. It's quite sad that in this day and age, this thing still exists, but it very much does. A lot of people experience it. They never speak about it. They act like it doesn't exist, but they know they are experiencing it in their relationships, where you have a man who's quietly trying to look for ways to humble you, quietly trying to look for ways to sabotage your progress. When you want to up level and get another degree or get a master's or whatever, it's like, why are you doing all of that? You're doing too much. Slow down. You're doing too much, right? When you want to spend those extra hours doing your work, it's like, no, don't worry. Go and chill. Go and relax. And some of these may be just genuinely you overdoing it and a man who loves you saying, hey, have a balance. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about a man who is actually telling you to have a balance because you're overdoing it and you continue to prioritize everything else above him and the children in the household. Because ambitious women have also got to learn to understand that there is a time and a place for everything. There's a time and a place where it's not your business, your ambition, all the other things you have to do that needs to be prioritized. It's actually your children that needs to be prioritized. It's you making out time to give your husband his rights. There are those things. But in the case where you can sense it, and women, we have intuition. Yeah, we need to start using our intuition more and start listening to it more. When it feels like, oh, he's somehow trying to sabotage, what I'm doing, so I don't continue to do too much, because what you're doing is feeling like too much for him. And so small discouragements aimed at slowing the woman down helps to create that gap where she's therefore then not able to grow. So attempts to sabotage a woman's progress when she marries a man who is beneath her level is very, very real. This thing is very real. And again, it may not seem like a big issue, but once it begins to grow into something bigger and the jealousy really begins to show its ugly head, that's when you're going to be like, yo, I'm actually with someone who hates the fact that I'm doing better. And that can feel very, very painful, especially when you are in a relationship, in a marriage with someone that you feel you're doing life with and they are meant to be a part of your support system, Another outcome of what happens to a woman when she marries beneath her level is undermining her circle. What do I mean by this? So he grows uneasy around maybe your friends, especially your mentors, the community who admire you and are really praising you. He grows very uncomfortable around those people. Why? Because those people reminds him of the level that you are at. And again, when you have a jealous husband, spouse that you're getting to know for the purpose of marriage, they want to just humble you. You're not all that, okay? Like if you thought you were all that, you're not all that. So anything to do with, you actually being an amazing person, you actually have achieved so much in life, they want to turn their heads away from that. They don't want to be reminded of who you are, or everything you've achieved and all of that. They don't want to hear that. So undermining your circle is a way of keeping you small once again. The fourth one is discomfort with her visibility or status. There is a lot of discomfort and visibility and or status that comes with a high achiever because they are doing things that is like out of the norm. They're doing things that's like stand out, right? And he becomes very, very uncomfortable with it being visible, other people being able to see it. Because if she has any public presence or public recognition or a growing reputation, he may experience it as a spotlight that he is standing outside of. So you are the one getting all the lights, camera actions and being seen and being known. And again, it makes him feel small because he feels like he's in the shadows somewhere. Now, is this reality or just everything that can go on in the man's head. Of course, a lot of these things are what's happening in his head, but they are related to who you are. You know, some people's lights, their spiritual light is too bright for others. And when you show up in rooms and you show up in spaces, you may actually be taking up too much space. You know, especially for women who have a public presence and public recognition and that, sometimes you may not even get invited to certain places because other people don't want to invite you because they know that if they invite you, everything's going to be all about you. You're going to take up space in that room. Everyone's going to be turning, oh, is that this person? Oh my God, that's that person. And the attention will no longer be on them. And people feel very uncomfortable about that. In a romantic relationship, you always having the attention as the woman is actually not a norm for a lot of men yet. It's not. A lot of the time, men like to be in that position of, you know, fame, recognition, all of that. And it's like, oh yeah, and by the way, this is my beautiful woman on my side, right? Where the woman is somehow unnoticed, nobody knows who she is, you know, she's quiet, she's subdued, all of that. So insecure men are not going to be very comfortable with having a woman who is always at the spotlight, always being known, always being praised and all of that. He is in the background. And again, that makes him feel smaller. That bruises his ego. That makes him feel less of a man. Is this every man? Absolutely not. This is a particular type of man that you can end up attracting. You might be thinking, but with all of these things, I mean, is this relationship even going to last? Well, it's up to you. Because some of these things may seem very subtle. This is the problem. It may seem very subtle, but sooner or later, you're going to begin to feel the resentment. You're going to begin to feel the hatred. You're going to begin to feel like him just dropping everything off on you. And this is another one that I don't have listed, but I want to mention, which is just the man just saying, okay, so, you know, you're great. You're making it. You've got all the money, all of that. Carry everything. You know, you pay all the bills. You know, you've got the money, so you book the holidays. Yeah, you pay the bills, you buy the house, you do all the things, and I'll just be here. And then one of the saddest things that can end up happening is eventually the resentment and the hate will lead to the demise, will lead to the end of that marriage. And then the man will go and marry someone who is beneath the level of the wife that he used to be married to. He will marry a woman who is beneath the level of the ambitious woman he used to marry. Why? Because again, men's ego and their need to feel like, you know, I'm the man. Then he will go to that woman who barely has anything, not much ambition, nothing, and he will pour everything he has into her. And the ambitious woman will be like, my goodness, he had an amazing life with me. We could have gone so far if only he did not have all of those negative thoughts and beliefs in his head. And yes, that would have been true, but not everyone can handle it. When you choose a man who is beneath your level, you need to be very sure that he can actually handle and accommodate how big and grand you are going to get. Because if he can't handle it, all of these negative thoughts will come to mind, all these emotions will come into place, all of these sabotaging behaviors will come into place, and either he sabotages you completely to where you're now like down to nothing, where you have to give up everything in order to keep him, because he will never be happy with anything you're doing to succeed. So it's either you play small and you shrink, or you lose him. You see? The fifth one that I want to mention is an erosion of spiritual and personal standards. So rather than rising to meet her practice or her discipline, the relationship pulls her towards the baseline. So maybe you always used to pray consistently, you always used to fast, do all the voluntary fasting, you were very conscious about eating halal, you were very conscious about making sure you were covered properly and all of these things. When you marry a man, especially beneath your spiritual level, in terms of your religion and how much of the deen you practice, you may see yourself over time. This isn't always often like immediate. Over time, you realize you're doing less and less. You're taking your deen less seriously. Maybe before you married, you always used to listen to Islamic lectures and things like that. All of a sudden, you read Quran here and there. You listen to a lecture here and there, but it's not a consistent thing that used to happen in your life before. And this is why istihara is very, very important. when you are making your istihara, you're asking Allah to guide you, you're asking God to guide you to someone who's going to be good for your religion and also your livelihood. Some of us look at the livelihood side alone and we're like, oh yeah, no, I'm good. We're going to be fine. He prays, he's a Muslim, so we're going to be fine. No, actually look at how are the two of you? Yes, it's possible that someone's going to be a bit more practicing than the other, but the difference should not be so stark. The difference should not be so stark. And one person shouldn't be like, oh yeah, I'm looking to get married so somebody else can fix, my relationship with God. Nobody can fix your relationship with God. Because if I'm more practicing, now I've got to come and tell you every day, come and pray, come and fast, come and... Who's got time for that? And the reality of it is, even when you go to try to encourage these people to do these things, they will over time become angry at you because you're doing too much. Like, leave me alone, I'll do it when I'm ready. So you can't give someone faith. That's something they have got to decide for themselves that they are ready to do and ready to invest in. But your spiritual bond with Allah, with God, can begin to die over time because you marry someone who also doesn't take their religion seriously. And one of the impacts of this actually on marriage is, your home becomes, an easy target for the enemy, for shaitan, for the devil, because there is a person in the home who actually doesn't observe the religion quite strictly enough for the home to have the full protection that it needs to have. So there are many consequences of this. Last but not least consequence that I want to talk about is a sense of loneliness inside the marriage for the woman. And this can be one of the saddest places a married woman can find herself. Because a lot of single women believe that, if a woman's married, then she's fine. She's got support from her husband because she's got a man in the house and all of this. No. Some women are married and extremely lonely because they can't share their wins, they can't share their worries, there's no emotional connection between them and the other person. And this can be one of the reasons why, when you are living with a spouse who despises you or who feels very insecure around you, you end up being very lonely because now you actually have to shut up about your wins. You have to be quiet about your goals. You can't talk too much about how much money you're making because the second they hear you're making this much, they're there to say, okay, now these bills are yours because you make more money than me, right? The kids want something is go to mommy, go to mommy. Every day is go to mommy. Daddy never has anything to contribute. So over time, you have to learn to be quiet. It's either that or like I said before, you have to shrink and play small. And that can become a very, very lonely place. You've got a physical presence in the home. Yeah, people can see that. You got a husband. But really, you don't have that emotional support that's meant to come with a loving, caring, and supportive husband. So, of course, this does not have to be the story for everybody. Some people marry men who are not on their level in these, areas that I've mentioned, but the man is a very secured man. So their marriage is able to thrive. But most often than not, those who do marry beneath their level in all the areas I've mentioned before will end up experiencing one of these things. If you are a woman who has married beneath her level or a woman who is courting beneath her level and you are experiencing any of these things, I do offer one-to-one coaching sessions to help give you clarity and to help, give you a safe space for you to discuss what you're going through and for us to come together and come up with a solution for you moving forward. Because a marriage that remains in this way is not stable. It's not stable. If you are blessed enough to have a man who's willing to admit to some of these weaknesses, there's a way that you can actually get it out of him where he can actually admit to some of these weaknesses, right? And so couples counseling as well is something that I also offer. And with that, you can, work your way forward and move ahead. Because some men feel this way, but they don't want to feel that way. They just find themselves feeling that way. You know what I mean? So this can be worked upon. And if you're a single woman courting a man who's already showing these signs, I will say, since you're single and since you've not yet said yes, tread very carefully. Again, if you would like to speak to me on a one-to-one basis, help you gain clarity, help you find a solution to how to move forward with a person like this, you can book a coaching session with me. The link is in the description box down below. But please, 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 ladies, Amara's story isn't about a bad man. Yeah? He didn't do anything monstrously wrong. All this man has done is stayed exactly where he is. Pay attention to that. Throughout everything I've discussed, all we're talking about is a woman who's very ambitious, growing, developing, and a man who's staying exactly where he is. So therefore, the 6 things above that I've mentioned are simply what tends to grow in that gap of a person remaining where they are whilst the other spouse does what? Continues to grow. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from the evil whispers of the devil to try to turn a man against his wife, to try to break homes, because that devil is the one Shaitan gives a high status and a high ranking to, the one who manages to break a man from his wife. As Muslims, we have the example of Khadija and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it can be done to some extent where a man may not meet you on your financial level. At least that's what that experience shows. But he is the leader in all other areas, and therefore you are able to do what? You are able to thrive. But when there is a mismatch in all of the levels that I mentioned earlier, this really is someone that you are not compatible with. So remember, I'm not just talking about money, because where there is a gap with money, but the man is absolutely a leader in his faith, he leads you, he shines, baby, you're going to be okay. Because when he's someone who truly fears Allah and he's doing his deen right and he's upholding his responsibilities upon you as a husband right, you're going to be fine with that financial gap and that financial difference. And for the majority of women I've ever worked with, they don't even care if the man doesn't earn as much as they do. Because I know money is going to be a big one that comes up for a lot of people when they think about, the levels, right? They don't even care. They're like, I'm willing to help my husband out. I'm willing to spend more. I'm willing to help carry the home. I know it's heavy. I'm willing to do all of that. But in exchange for that, she also wants a loving husband, a kind man, someone who prioritizes Allah and prioritizes the deen, someone with good character. A woman will lay down everything she has for you if you demonstrate good character and you love her and you protect her and you shield her. She will drop everything for you. This is one of the biggest mistakes men make, is that they think that the way to get more from a woman is the more the more you hate her, the more you dislike her, the more you try to control her, the more you force her. It's all the aggressive ways it's going to get you what you want. Absolutely not. You are at a loss. You are, especially the women, I don't know about, women of the past, but I know about women of these days, that is absolutely not going to work. But it can be done where there is a financial gap, as long as the man is not the type of man who would take advantage. When we look at the example of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he never took advantage of Khadija. Never ever did he take advantage of Khadija. She was able to have all that wealth, all that money, and he was still able to be her husband, and they had a loving home. He never married anybody when Khadija was alive. He never married another woman. They had a happy marriage to the point where the angels came down and said to Muhammad, tell Khadija that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says salam. Every time I remember that, it gives me goosebumps all over my body. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends his salams to Khadija. And there will be peace for her in Jannah. Allahu Akbar. Whilst Khadija was still alive, Allah sends his peace upon Khadija. So it's absolutely possible, but it's quite unfortunate because these days we don't have men who are emulating the characteristics of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because if men really took their times and decided to emulate that, they will get so much more from a woman. So this is a video, again, about the cautionary tale of a woman who marries beneath her level. Not every man is like the Prophet. Just because he says he's a believer and a Muslim, you still got to look out for all those things that I mentioned, okay? Because just like not every woman is a Khadija out there, not every man is a Muhammad out there, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So keep these things in mind. Again, if you would like to book one-on-one coaching sessions with me, you can find the link in the description box down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up if you have enjoyed it, and I will see you all in my next one. Assalamu alaikum. Hey ladies, I've got 2027 retreat locations out. The locations are incredible. As you can see, we have Maldives, we have Marrakesh, Morocco, we have Alanya, Turkey, we have Cape Town, South Africa. It is giving. I'm so excited to be able to host you. Head on over onto my website for affordable early booking options, and I will see you over there.